Hello everyone, today we are going to be presenting our retrospective for Sprint 2. My name is Julian Ryan. I'm going to be joined by Ethan Rose, Javin and Wei. Okay, so let me do a very quick recap on what our project is. In our last presentation we discussed the issue related to the food unit. Well, the problem with the unit was the pantry. The students were supposed to write order forms. The tutor goes through the pantry and writes down a shopping list. The tutor is responsible for buying ingredients from the order form as well as the ingredients in their stock. But the problem is that system isn't automated. Well, it's a bit of a tedious process, so we need to automate the process. The students need to enter those ingredients into some form of application, and then the application needs to access a database and make all decisions instead of the tutor. The students need to be informed by the application to let them know if the ingredients are available or not, and also the application is responsible for writing down the shopping list for the tutor. Okay, so in our last sprint, we were responsible for understanding the problem with the HSN 754 unit. We were also responsible for understanding the old process and developing a new process. So I just mentioned what the old process is. The new process is the automated process. I'll get to the new process in just a second. Well, we also had to create a plan to tackle the project. So we had to create a Trello board, we had to design user stories. After understanding the process, we had to focus on our proposed solution. The solution during Sprint 1 was unfortunately, at this stage, the project is just a concept. In Sprint 2, we get to more of the design process, and prepare for Sprint 3 when we're actually doing some coding. Well, to finalise the concept, we had to gather user stories. During Sprint 2, we've gone into further detail to try and prepare for implementing the solution. As tech stack was discussed during Sprint 1, however, we had to make sure we knew how to implement our solution. For our application, we're going to be using C++, and for our database, we are going to be using SQL. Ethan will explain the control flow in just a moment. He'll explain what's going on. Well, during week 10, we also had to write up an ethical analysis for our system. If we rushed the proposed solution, some features may need to be left out. If we choose a feature over security, it could affect the integrity of our solution. Well, we all know the Duo Mobile thing is an annoying thing. Well, it can annoy everyone. The purpose of Sprint 2 is to make sure everyone knows what they're doing. We need to know what needs to be implemented into the solution. We need to know our flaws in the solution before we start coding. And we also need to be prepared to start coding and implementing the database when we start our third sprint. Ethan is going to discuss the flow behind the application in greater detail.
Thank you, Julian. Our plan A is the plan we decided on during creating our technology stack. It centers around C++. The front end of our plan A is that student and staff would have an application on their phone or the computer. When they enter the app, they put in their credentials, their username, their password. Students would have access to the stock levels and what's available, and they could then go on and fill out an order form for what they want. Staff who enter their credentials, they'll have access to the shopping list as well as editing the database itself. Next slide, please. The back end of Plan A is using the Tkinter library in C++ to open up a GUI for the students and the tutors. Once the access form is filled out for the students, it'll create a list and compare to see if there are any items available in the database for the students. If they are, they'll be informed and told, where to pick it up. If not, they'll be told it's unavailable. The staff involved will be able to add and remove items from the database, as well as receive a shopping list of things that are soon to expire and things that have little stock. Stack includes local servers on campus, a virtualized Windows server using Visual Studio to code C++ and SQL, and a C++ written app for our users. Next slide, please. Our backup plan was to use a web server, a website, to largely do the same thing. The student and staff would open up a browser and head to the designated website. Both would see a list of items available. When they enter their credentials, students would gain access to an order form, staff would gain access to the shopping list and an add or remove items function. Next slide, please. The backend is a website, a web server, an Apache deployment using MySQL and PHP database. The student splash page only allows read access, whereas the staff have read and write access. And we're planning on using cloud-based Amazon, AWS, a Docker deployment of Amazon, as it's just more efficient than a whole operating system, Apache, MySQL Workbench to use for administrating the server, and a browser for the UI. Next slide, please. Why did we choose Plan A? Primarily, we chose Plan A because we're more used to C++. We're used to editing with it. We're used to Visual Studio. It makes a lot more sense for us as a team. We also chose locally based and Windows Server because having it on campus, it's a lot more secure. It's a lot better for the privacy of the students involved. And it's probably it's more easier for the IT department, for their flow, just to have it off a server they're already running, than to build it out in a cloud and with Docker. All right, thanks for your time. I'm going to hand it off to Wei.
Mock Figma design. This will be our Mock Figma design. When you first open the app, you will be greeted by this main menu. Here you can choose to either log in as a staff member or as a student. If you click on the student button, you will see this page where you can type in your student ID and password to log in. After entering a valid student ID and password, you will be able to see the pantry menu. Here, you can choose what you want to order by clicking on the item. There is also a search bar to search for specific items, as well as name and quantity of an item. After choosing an item, you can click on the plus-minus sign to choose the quantity. Once you get everything you need, you can click on the confirm button and it will bring you to the next page. The next page will show you everything you ordered, so you can double confirm before you submit the order form. When you click on the confirm button again, it will bring you to the final page where it says thank you and gives you the receipt number. If you are a staff member, you can click on the staff button instead and it will bring you to this staff login screen. The staff login screen is exactly the same as the student login screen, except you can only enter staff IDs. After entering a valid staff ID and password, you will be greeted by this restock pantry page. Here you can see the quantity of an item as well as update them if some items are spoiled or you just refilled them. You can also see items that are low on stock as well as choose which item to restock. Items that are being restocked by other staff members can also be seen. After pressing the Confirm button, the next page will show you what items you updated as well as which items you chose to restock. Clicking on the Confirm button again will bring you to the final page where it says thank you and show you the restock list one last time.
The last sprint was much more focused than the first one. We had better ideas of the project scope and what was needed to achieve an effective solution for this problem. Like the last sprint, we met several times between the classes to plan and discuss our next move, as well as reflecting on our previous decisions to determine if they were still the right choices and moving forward. What is next for sprint 3? We are going to deploy a prototype for solution, then get feedback from the stakeholders on design and potential issues. Then we shall hire a penetration tester to look for potential gaps in our security plan. Thank you.